What's up, ladies and gentlemen? So today we are going to install NixOS. First, you're going to have to download the ISO file. Go to the official website and go to download. Here, scroll down to the Linux distribution section. Here, I said we are going to do it the hard way. So we are going to download the minimal ISO, but if you want the easy way, you can just pick one of these two, either GNOME or Plasma. So you will get a GUI installer instead of just the console. But today we are going to download 64-bit minimal ISO image, and based on your processor architecture, you can just either pick 64 or 32. There is one for ARM as well. Right. Now you need to create a bootable drive. I'm not going to cover that. There are plenty of videos on YouTube how to create bootable drives, USB bootable drive and all that stuff. So once you have that bootable drive, you can plug that in, or if it is a DVD for some reason, you can just insert that and boot into the system by restarting. And from the boot menu, you can either select the bootable drive, or you can set the boot order to pen drive to be at the top. And the screen you will get is something like this. This is the boot menu, and pick the first menu or the item from the boot menu, and the live system will boot eventually. So once this is booted, you will get this console right here. But if you have picked one of the GNOME or Plasma desktop, then you will get a really nice GUI installer. All right, so here I'm going to SSH into this VM because that way I can just use the regular console and copy paste stuff from the browser. So first I'm going to get the IP address, IP space A. IP address is 192.168.122.116. All right, let's log into the system. Open up a console, and if you are installing this on the host machine, then obviously you don't have to SSH. You can just type whatever the command I'm executing just here. But I'm going to SSH. The username is, as you can see in the prompt, it's NixOS, and IP address 192.168.122.116. Hit enter. Add the fingerprint by saying yes to the prompt, and here it's going to ask me the password. First of all, I'm going to change the password for NixOS user, so I'll first go to the super user, and here I'll execute pass wd, and the username is NixOS. I'll just enter 123. Just like that, I have changed the password, and here I can log in using 123. Okay, now you can see the prompt has been changed. Now you can go to the installation manual. Here pick installing NixOS and manual installation. You can set the font if you want to something else, something bigger. If it is too small, just run this command. I'll run this command here, and it will change the font here. As you can see, actually I need sudo here, and the font has been changed just like that. I'll actually change to the root user here. Now we need to connect to internet because we are downloading everything from the internet. Okay, first of all, we need to start the WPS applicant service. So I'll copy this command. Since I have switched to the root user, I don't have to include sudo. Copy and paste it here. Now we can validate by running status. It's active and running. All right. Now I'm going to switch to Arch Linux WPS applicant wiki page because I think it's relevant or rather easy. First, you are going to run WPA CLI, WPA_CLI, and you will get a prompt. But in my case, I have an error because I don't have a Wi-Fi interface. But you will get a prompt. And there, you need to run scan to scan the networks, Wi-Fi networks around you. And you can get the results by running scan_result. Now, if you know the Wi-Fi network name already, then you don't have to do this. Next, you can run add network to create a new network. This is the ID of the newly created network. And we are going to set the SSID or the Wi-Fi network name and the password if there is one. So you can set underscore, you can run set underscore network. 0 is the network ID. SSID is going to be this one right here. So replace whatever the network username, sorry, network ID. And do the same for the password as well. If you have set a password for that Wi-Fi network, and here we are going to enable that network by running enable underscore network. Now you should be connected to the Wi-Fi network and internet as well. To validate that you have connected to internet, you can just run ping maybe google.com, and the command should be successfully running. Okay, next we are going back to NixOS manual and to partitioning. Now you need to know whether you are running UEFI or BIOS. So to validate that, you can run ls sys firmware EFI here. If you are getting some outputs and the command is successful, then that means you are running UEFI. Then what you should follow is this tutorial right here. Otherwise, you can follow these steps. Actually, they are not really different, or rather that much different. So I'm going to cover both of them. So we need to find the device hard drive we want to install our NixOS to. I'll run lsblk with option model, name, and size. Here I don't have a model because this is a virtual disk. However, if you have a Samsung or Western Digital or something, then that name will show up here. We have the size of the disk and the name of the disk. Now I'm going to run cf disk and the path to the device VDA. Now if you have any partitions, they're going to show up here as well. However, what you need to pass is the device name, not the partition names. So run this. First, it will prompt you to select the partition label. If you're running UEFI, then you should pick GPT. If you're running BIOS, then you should pick DOS instead. I'm going to pick GPT. Here, let's create the partition structure. We have free space of 40 GB, and I'm going to create a new partition. So hit enter. By the way, you can just use arrow keys to move around this TUI. First, I'm going to create a 512 megabyte partition for EFI partition. Hit enter. You can use arrow keys to jump to free space and create a new partition. This time, you can either choose to create a swap partition or not. If you have something like 8 GB RAM, then it's probably a good idea to create a swap partition. So if Linux run out of memory, then it will write to the swap space instead. It's going to be really, really slow, but it will not freeze the system at least. All right. Now, yeah, I'm just going to give it this 1 GB, but in your case, maybe you can go for something like 8 GB or something. Once again, create another drive. This is going to be our main root partition drive. So I'm going to use the rest of this space for this partition right here. So we have 3 partitions and all of them are Linux file system type. We have to change that. So go to type. First, we are going to change the EFI partition type to EFI system. Then swap should be swap, and Linux file system is correct for the root partition. Then we are going to write, say yes, and hit enter. Then you can quit. Once again, I'm going to run lsblk, and you should have 3 partitions under VDA. Now we are going to format these partitions. First of all, we are going to format the root partition. So I'll copy this command, and root partition is the last one, VDA3. I'll paste that in. Here you can change the label of the disk if you want to, or other partition if you want to. Since that's done, I will run lsplk once again. Here we are going to create the swap partition. Copy this. Swap partition is the second one, so I'll copy this and paste it here. Run. Similarly, let's format the EFI partition as well. So that's going to be FAT32. Here EFI partition is VDA1, so let's run this. You can validate the file systems by running or by including fs type into lsblk, and you should see vfat for VDA1, VDA2 should be swap, and VDA3 should be ext4. Okay, now we need to mount these partitions we have created. For that, I'm going to use this command right here. So mount dev VDA3 is my root partition, and I'm going to mount it to MNT. After that, we should mount the EFI partition, but we need to create a directory first inside MNT. So mkdir /MNT, boot is the directory name. Once again, we are going to mount the EFI partition to MNT boot directory we just created. All right, now let's run lsblk with mount point. Now you should see something like this. Now we need to activate the swap partition, so I'll run swap on for VDA2. Once again, let's run lsblk and you should have something like this. All right, everything is good. Now we should configure our NixOS. Initial configuration will be generated, so you don't have to do a lot of things. Just run this command. So we are going to run NixOS generate config to MNT. It's pretty simple. So hit enter. That is done. Now we have two configurations inside MNT etc NixOS. Just ls here. These two are the configuration, and we're only going to change the configuration.nix. Okay, now I'll run nano to edit the file. Go to MNT etc NixOS, and here file is configuration.nix. Okay, as you can see, it has imported the hardware configuration into configuration.nix, and we have a bootloader as well already enabled. Now you can switch to grep if you want to, but I think system deboot does pretty much everything you need. It'll search for existing operating systems and add them to the boot menu and all that stuff, so you don't have to worry. I think this is a pretty good bootloader, so I'm going to just keep it like this instead of using grep2. Right here, I'll just uncomment networking host name, and I'll add something like this syntax as the host name. Here you can enable network manager. However, when you are installing GNOME, that will be automatically enabled whether you uncomment this or not. But as a backup plan, we have this in case GNOME is not working, then at least you can connect to internet and install stuff. So I'm gonna uncomment this record anyway. Let's set the time zone. I'm from Sri Lanka, so Asia, and this is going to be city is going to be Colombo. Let's scroll down. What else do we need? Now here you can enable sound saver. You can either select pulse audio or pipewire. If you want pipewire, actually all this will be done by GNOME because we are going to install GNOME. However, if you are planning to use a window manager, something like hyperland or I don't know, DWM or something, then you have to manually enable this. Okay. Now, pulse audio is pretty simple. You just uncomment this. However, if you are planning to use something like Pipewire, then I can show you my configuration. Can go to etc NixOS here, Pipewire. So this is the configuration I am using. I have imported all this into the configuration.nix. So either you can create a new file and import this, or just paste all this in the configuration.nix file itself. Okay, now I'm just going to skip this. Let's go to user configurations. I'll uncomment all these. Okay, now let's create a new user group for this user. Users.groups. Then I'm going to name this group syntax. Simple as this. Here you can change the username unless your name is Alice. I'm going to change this to syntax. This is going to be a normal user. And you can add extra groups if you want to. So by adding wheel, you are enabling sudo for this particular user. Here, I'm going to add the primary group we created. So group equal syntax. Then you should end the record with a semicolon. Make sure that you have a semicolon by the end. These are user packages. You can add something like, I guess, Vim. Maybe what else? I don't know. Some file managers and all that stuff. You can add them here. You can add Tanner maybe. Yeah, all this stuff can be added here. Now, if you want to check the applications you have, you can go to NixOS.org packages, and here you can search for something like Tuna or whatever the hell that is, and you can get the package name and paste it here like this. Okay, these are user packages, and down here we also have some system-wide packages. So when you install something here, these will be available for all the users. And if you scroll down, you can also enable SSH if you want to. I'm just going to comment that out. You have a firewall. If you don't know what this is, just keep it unchanged. Then this is a backup plan. I recommend enabling this flag right here. By enabling this, you are going to create a copy of the configuration to this location right here. Run current system configuration.nix. So that's always a good backup plan. And we are not going to change anything else. I don't need Vim because I have that for the user. All right, I think this is good. And next, we are going to install GNOME. So I'll go all the way to the top. Here, I'm going to go to GNOME, NixOS wiki page, and copy all this. Now, Xrave is the one that controlling your devices and all the displays and all that stuff. And GDM is the login manager. I think that's what's called. Or yeah, I think it's the login manager or display manager or something like that. So when you boot into your system, you will see a login prompt, right? A GUI, and that's GDM right there. GNOME is the desktop environment. So once you have logged into the system, you will see basically what you're looking at is GNOME. So I'm gonna copy all these configurations and paste them here. Now we can save. Control O and hit enter to save. Control X to quit. Let's go back to the guide, and what do we have next? Right now we can run NixOS install. Copy this and run it here. This will prompt you to enter the root password as mentioned here. You can see you can enter a secure, strong password for the root user. Meanwhile, this command is going to download all this stuff from the internet and install the system for you. All right, so I'm back and we have the prompt to enter the root password. So let's enter the root password. Make sure it's a really strong password and you have to retype it to make sure that's the correct one. And the installation is also done. All right, so I guess now we can reboot. I don't remember unmounting the devices, but it doesn't suggest maybe the script itself is going to unmount all the devices I have mounted. So I'm just going to reboot here and let's see. Let's jump to the virtual machine and let's see how that goes. Okay, I got the boot menu, and if you have Windows installed here, then it should show up here. And just by selecting that, you can boot into Windows or NixOS, or maybe there are some other operating systems alongside NixOS. Everything will be there. Here we can log into yeah, there we go. Okay, now one thing, we don't have a password for the user. I'm going to add that just by switching to the TTY. So hit Control Alt F1. Hopefully that will bring the, actually, yeah, Control Alt F1 will bring one of the consoles. There are 7, and 7 is the UI you just saw. Okay, here I'm going to enter the username as root and enter the password you entered for the root user. Here, let's change password for the syntax user. So the command is pass wd, syntax is the username. Hit enter and enter a new password. Retype the password. Now let's jump back into the original UI display manager using Control Alt F7. Okay, here now we can select the username and enter the password, and I guess hit enter. And there we go. Just like that, we have GNOME. All right, let's search for terminal. And I'm going to pick console. And here we can try sudo -i maybe. Enter the password. Yep, we have root permission. Or rather, we can use sudo using this user, because remember we added wheel group to the user in the configuration. So let's go to etc NixOS, and here I'm going to use, do I have Vim? Yeah, I have Vim, so I'm going to use Vim and edit configuration.nix. Vim not found. Okay, do I have nano? Yep, I have nano. Thank God. Now how do I install a new application? Actually, since we don't have Vim, which is puzzling because I have added it here, that's confusing. Hold on, I'm going to open up another tab and let's try Vim. Yeah, actually that's there. It's not available for the root user, that's why. So if I switch to sudo -i and enter the password, and if I run Vim here, that's not found because I have only installed that package for the user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this application from the user, but add it to the system application list like this. And I'm going to hit Control O to save, Control X to exit out. Now if I run Vim, is that available? Of course not. You have to do something. You have to rebuild the system. So to do that, you can run sudo. Actually, you don't need sudo because I'm the root user right now. So NixOS rebuild, and there are a bunch of options you can run. One is just build, that will build the system, but it will not switch to the new system that Vim is available automatically. and then there is build vim. So that's really good. So with this, you can just spin up a virtual machine with the new configuration, and you, I guess, test it out using a VM instead of installing that into your system directly. Then there is switch. This will build the system and switch to that system automatically. So that's what we are going to try. So switch and hit enter. If you have some new applications, then it will take time to download those applications from internet. Otherwise, it should be like quite fast command to run. Now let's try Vim. Do we have Vim? Yes. Here we go. And yeah, that's how you would add new applications. So whatever the change you make to NixOS configuration, you have to run NixOS rebuild switch. Otherwise, the changes will not be applied. So that's pretty much it for the installation. Now you have GNOME, and as I said, you should have Wi-Fi. If you actually, you don't have I don't have a Wi-Fi network inside the virtual machine, but I have wired connection. So similarly, if you have network interfaces, Wi-Fi network interfaces, then they will show up here. And of course, you would the volume and all that stuff as well. I mean, that's it. Maybe I will create another video about Home Manager. If you check out my configuration, I will put the link in the description. It's on GitHub. I can cd into it is in NixOS, and here configuration is pretty simple. If I go to users, you can see I don't have many applications. That's because I'm using something called Home Manager, and I have all the configurations in there. Where do I have them? Yeah, these are the applications I have installed through NixOS. So yeah, maybe I will talk about this in the future, but that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.